All right, so now we have successfully uploaded our first graded exercise, pass-fail. To meet all the requirements, the line work should be colored, so you can see it's colored here. And it's also nice when it's a PNG and it has a transparent background, which you can see in these examples. And a nice way to see that is when we view it in the slideshow, it will show with a black background. And so the ones that really use the full advantage of the PNG format will show up as just colored lights. On the black background, like so. Okay, but let's move on to the next exercise. Remember that they each need to be titled. So the second part of uploading, I didn't fit this into the last demo, is just adding your name. First name is fine. Once we get into assignments, we have to do kind of multiple uploads, then we use your name and a numbering system. So let's keep it simple while we can. So looking at the other Digital 1 exercise, which is what I'm introducing here, it is called the Shape Tools exercise, or Shape Tools composition. And what it's going to get us used to is some vector tools within Photoshop. Like the last project, we're not going to create or draw or paint any of our own pixels. But in this project, we are going to create our own shapes and use shape tools within Photoshop to mimic a composition. So even complex, detailed work will get simplified down to basic shapes and basic effects. So the first challenge is to choose something you find really interesting and compositionally satisfying that doesn't really depend on a whole bunch of detail. I think this is a really nice example from Doctor Who. Because mostly if you squint at this, you can kind of see the shape potential of it and how it can be carried over with shape tools. All right. This is my chance to show you some digital art I think is really interesting. So this is someone I went to school with at the Art Center College of Design in California. We were both illustration students there. And he went on to do fine art work in galleries, which is all digital. And he does a whole lot of work. And unlike looking for the line work examples, we don't need to specify any certain size for this. It's fine if it's a low-res image. But what we want is an image that has a compelling composition that's also fairly simple. So that's a cute one with a cat. I like this one, the headless man. But to show you the kind of potential of Edwin's work, the potential of digital work, these are not printed on paper. These are actually printed on silk and then stretched together. And some of his works are 19 feet tall. But they're all just painted digitally. Sometimes they're printed on silk and then placed behind plexiglass. So they have this really soft, eerie effect where you get reflections. And so especially his work that's underwater really looks that way. So neat stuff. So I think I'm going to choose this one, because who doesn't like a man with his dog missing a head? So what do? Well, I'm going to save this to the desktop. You can just drag and drop and find an empty space on your desktop, or you can right-click and say Save Image and navigate it to the desktop. Like any well-trained illustrator, Edwin makes sure that even the images on his website have his name embedded in them. Now I'm going to use that as inspiration, and this is how I do it. We've gone over basic shapes. I want to make sure I've saved my PSD version, and I already have. And so I didn't need to save it that time, so I actually shrunk it for a test there. Now I'm going to open up Edwin's image, doesn't matter what resolution, in Photoshop. Okay? So for the first time now, I'm going to learn about what resolution this image is. So in Photoshop, I do that by going to Image and Image Size. Standard screen resolution, so most website images are 72 pixels per inch. These are high-def screens, so our screens are a little bit better than that, but that's well underneath the 300 standard professional pixel per inch threshold for printing. So this would not print well, and it's only about 6 by 6 inches. So what we need to do is we're going to resample the images we find and make them printable resolution. That doesn't mean they're going to look better. It's going to mean that we're going to create more pixels. It's actually going to make them blurrier, but that's helpful to us because we're just trying to understand the shapes. So what do I do? In image size, I'm going to click on resample. And what that does is allow me to add or take away pixels. If I don't have resample clicked and I put in something like 350 resolution, it will keep the exact same pixel dimensions. It will just make the physical inches a lot smaller. So in order to actually change it, I have to resample it, and I want it to be 350 pixels per inch and to be around 8 by 10 inches. So we're going to do 8 by 8 in this case. I have this clicked so that its proportions are locked, right? So when I hit 8 here, it automatically does 8 on the other side, so it doesn't stretch it out. And then with resample, I want you to change the resolution to 350. So it needs to fit on an 8 by 10 canvas at 350 pixels per inch. Then I hit OK. You can see how blurry it's getting now. And now I have the image. Now if I zoom in, you can see that what the computer did is it just added a bunch of pixels around the existing pixels, and so it really blurs it out. But on the computer screen, it still looks fine. It just wouldn't print well. Next, I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to fill it with white. Okay? And now I'm going to take the opacity of that layer down to 50%. So it's like putting tracing paper over it. That also helps me to focus on the shapes more than the colors. Okay. Now here is the limitations of this. We are not going to trace. We are not going to use the pencil tool, the brush tool, the paint bucket, anything. The only tools we're going to use are the vector tools in Photoshop. Which means if I thought that this shape could be made with a large capital I could use the text tools if I want, because the text tools, fonts, are vector tools within Photoshop. So if I do an I, it's a pretty cool font I'm using there, called Chasing Embers, a custom font. But if I just use a regular, like an American typewriter font, I, capital, and then I transform it like we've learned. I can rotate it, I can stretch it. I could try to make him with an eye, and that's a shape tool. That's allowed. But the better shape tools are you're going to find underneath, especially here, because I don't want you to draw your own vectors yet. So really, this is the shape tool. And it's a drawer with a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, an ellipse, a polygon, a line tool, and a custom shape tool. Okay? So let's start really basic. Remember basic shapes, rectangles, squares. I want to look for the biggest shapes. So let's do his pants, a long rectangle. Okay? Now this shape tool, these are the vector tools within Photoshop, which means that the computer is making them and it will rescale them perfectly to any resolution I want. But they also have properties. So right now, for some reason, my shape tool properties, you'll see them up here in the options. I have a stroke, which means an outline around my shape. I want to turn that off. And I have a fill that's red. And I'll show you how you can fix that later. But if I wanted to change it into something else, I could change it into something else. All right. You'll also see that my shape tool creates its own layer. And it looks a little different. That little icon in the middle of the layer window, that means it's a shape layer. Which means at any time I can double click on it and I can change the color, which is very helpful. Right. So let me just pick a nice visible color right now. I can even select the color from the painting. All right, now, just like we've done with the cartoons, I can hit Command T and I can transform it. And I can get it to kind of line up. Huh. Shouldn't do that. Let me see. Command T, transform it. Starting simply, then just hit return. I'm going to click don't show that again because it's fine. And now you can see I have a shape that mimics those pants, right? But free transform alone, just scaling and rotating, won't give you as many options as you would like. So let's try some more. Command T. This time, instead of just clicking on the outside and clicking on the corners, let's right click inside the transform box, and you'll get more transform options. And my favorite one, well, I have a few. So let's start with Distort. Distort lets you click on any corner and move it. So if I wanted this to really become more of a wedge shape, or a rhombus, or a parallelogram, instead of just a straight rectangle, I can do that. Hit return. Very good. So that's very different, right? And that's by right-clicking within the transform box. Let's try some more. If I right-click and I use Distort, that allows me to do it independently of all the other edges. So it's very similar to the Skew Tool. Or maybe it's what I used before. The Skew Tool, I don't remember. The Skew Tool will move everything slightly together. The Distort tool will move the corners more independently. But my favorite one is the Warp tool. The Warp tool will divide it into a 9 cross-section grid, and then will allow you to push and pull the grid into different parts. So I can give a slight curve to the pants that way. And I can correct his waistline. And I can slope it in slightly there. And now I can get a more customized shape that better mimics what was there. Okay, let's try it again with the top. Same thing. I don't need to make a new layer, I just need to draw a new shape, and it will create a layer for me. For the shirt, let's fill it with a different color. Okay. Let's transform it. Hit return, Command T. Let's widen it out a little bit. Let's use some of the fancy ones. Let's do skew and tug it on this corner, tug it up here, tug it down here, tuck it in. Good. Let's do command, before I even hit return, I can right click and get more options. Let's warp it, and let's tug up the center here. I'm not going to be able to get a sleeve and a shoulder there, but I can do this. It's like rolling dough, you know, when you're using the warp tool. And now how does that work? Yeah, it works pretty well, but I have that little cut there that I want. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use a shape tool, in this case the polygon tool, and I want 3 sides, so it's a triangle. Create a new shape, transform it, stretch it out, move it down, tweak it. I can use fancier transform tools if I want. Now this is something new, and I haven't demonstrated this before. Instead of using this as a shape tool, I'm going to use it as a selection. So what I'm going to do is right click on it once I have it where I want, and then I'm going to say select pixels. Oh, that didn't work. Let me see. This should work theoretically. Because I could just fill this color with the background, right? And that will cut into my shirt. But it'd be better if I could delete that selection from this shape. But those are some of the limitations of vector tools, is they need to have kind of